we need to talk about Utah Athletic Director Mark Harlan. And Mark, I'm talking directly to you. This is a big deal. And I understand that there was a fine issue. Doesn't mean a thing. The cash doesn't matter at all. Mark, you're better than what we saw you put out there early Sunday morning, late Saturday night. I have never in my entire career that spans more than 30 years covering athletics seen an athletic director do more damage to a brand than Mark Harlan did to the University of Utah on Saturday night and have so few consequences of note for his actions. And Mark, I've said this 100 times. I said it on Twitter over the weekend, and I mean this as sincerely as I can say it. Mark Harlan, you are one of the best administrators in all of college athletics. Not even really in question. The quality, the work you've done, the programs you've built, the success that Utah has seen under your leadership as the athletic director at the University of Utah. But here's a couple of issues with the conduct that Mark Harlan put out there on Saturday night. Mark, this is not your first time. Whether it was attacking Dennis Dodd on Twitter with the, oh, give me a break tweets during the Pac-12 meltdown, all of those things, those are inconsequential until you melted down on that dais Saturday night. Mark, you're better than this. Sitting up on that dais, ripping the Big 12, sitting up on that dais, ripping those officials is not your job. It is below your pay grade. And frankly, the University of Utah deserves a leader who understands who he is, where he is, and what his responsibility are. Mark, you've got to be better than this, because for the first time, I think probably in your entire career, and for the first time that I can remember, when talking about the University of Utah, who on this show, ask any Oak State fan who routinely loses their mind when we say anything remotely nice about the University of Utah. Mark Harlan, for the first time, you damaged the University of Utah. You damaged the Big 12, and frankly, the University of Utah and the Big 12 deserve more than a 4-line apology that really wasn't an apology and you paying a $40,000 fine. That doesn't unwind the watch. Are you pissed you lost the game? Yes. Let your football coach throw a chair. That's how you express your dismay. Then what you do is you get on the phone and you talk to the commissioner of the league. Behind closed doors, not in a public forum. Mark Harlan, you need to get in front of the media, and I don't mean on your mouthpiece of a radio station who's never going to ask you a difficult question. Mark, you need to do a TV interview in the great state of Utah, and you need to freaking own how bad your conduct was on Saturday night, because, Jake, I don't even think it's arguable. And again, I will say, for the first time, I believe Mark Harlan not only damaged the University of Utah, but I believe he damaged the credibility of the Big 12.
I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. And you know, I was really surprised that, you know, Mark put himself in that situation. You know, I obviously haven't been covering the game for 30 years, you know, but we've spent a ton of time covering Utah, you know, and specifically for me, like how Mark Harlan handled himself through, you know, first of all, Pac-12 expansion before, and then realignment, obviously, and now you're in the Big 12. Like through that process, like Mark Harlan was elite and built a reputation for, you know, being one of the best administrators in all of college athletics. And I still think that guy is in there somewhere. But the problem is that when you choose to, you know, go out and do what you did with the press and basically say like, hey, you know, like just left the locker room, you know, like, and this is how I feel. Like it was very clear that's what happened. And I think that, you know, it's just unfortunate, man. It's one thing to lose the game and for everyone to be losing their mind on the field. There's all kinds of video and stuff going around about, you know, Witt and Harlan, you know, ripping the officials a new one on the field. And, you know, and it's just not a great look. But overall, yeah, this sense of like, hey, Mark Harlan, you're an athletic director, not a head coach. And frankly, like you're the guy that's supposed to go and have the conversation with Brett Yormark and you know, kind of handle all of this behind the scenes like you did before. I just am really really surprised that that's how you chose to go about it. And I understand you're a human being, man. I understand emotions get the best of us sometimes, but unfortunately, you're paid to not make that mistake. You're paid to represent the university and represent the Big 12 in a certain way, and you didn't do that, and that's unfortunate.
Huge mistake. Huge mistake. And let's show you what we're talking about if you missed it. I think it's really important to deliver context. I think it's really important to understand. Obviously, we are talking about the Holy War. It was passionate. It was a hell of a football game.
Completely lived up to it.
Absolutely why I told you all last week, really for the last 2 weeks, it's the greatest rivalry in college sports, bar none. It is the emotion. It is the absolute vitriol from one side to the other and vice versa. It's everything you want in a major college football game. It is so special. And it was sullied by the actions of Utah Athletic Director Mark Harlan after the game. Here's what should have happened. Kyle Whittingham handled himself, I think, perfectly right here.
Yeah, I couldn't get that last stop, and we needed it, unfortunately. That's kind of been the story for several games. We play lights out and just can't get that one last stop. Thank you.
KSL Sports with the video there. I have no problem with it.
No.
People were ripping Kyle Whittingham for tossing a chair. He just lost his fifth game in a row, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He lost to Utah for the second straight time. He should be pissed. He should be upset.
I mean, let's say it perfectly. He lost the only game that matters on your schedule.
Correct.
Right? Like, you lost the only game that anybody was talking about based on where you're at in the season. And I agree, losing 5 in a row for Witt's going to be frustrating, but that's not why he's throwing that chair. He's throwing that chair because they were clearly prepared. They looked really good on defense. They held that BYU team down like nobody has this year.
The defense absolutely lived up to it.
And what he said there is spot on. You could not come up with the play you needed to close the game. And we'll get into the penalty in the game, but I thought that behavior was spot on.
Yeah, I think what you saw in that presser from Kyle Whittingham, not just the loss, the way it went down, his frustration with the officials. Kyle Whittingham handled himself with dignity and class after that game. His comments about Brant Keithy, who it's just so disheartening that Brant Keithy got hurt again and is out for the year. It's been the story of this season that you've had so many great Utes have their careers come to an end through injury. It's hurtful. And you look at how the head coach at Utah reacted to that, totally understand it. And then Mark Harlan completely, lost himself in these comments.
This game was absolutely stolen from us. We were excited about being in Big 12, but tonight I am not. We won this game. Someone else stole it from us. Very disappointed. I will talk to the commissioner. This was not fair to our team. I'm disgusted by the professionalism of the officiating crew tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, it is horrendous. It's the worst, one of the worst things that I have ever seen an athletic director do. You took all of the focus off of the football game. You took all of the focus away from, you took all of the influence away from your storied, historically good head coach. When an athletic director in a power conference met with the media after a loss, not to announce the firing of a coach, not to whatever, I can't even think of a reason an athletic director would go up to a dais like that.
Right.
It is a breach in ethics. It is a breach in responsibility. And then to go after the Big 12, because all this does is perpetuate this notion that Utah does not want to be in the Big 12. And again, what did we get on Twitter over the weekend, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon? Oh, they should have gone to the ACC. And Ute fan talking about how Utah was going to the ACC. Utah was never going to the ACC.
Yeah.
There were two options, the Big 10 and the Big 12. And I can tell you straight away, it's on the channel. Go watch it. The University of Utah respected and has always treated the Big 12 with respect. That's it. That's the whole sentence. Always have, I thought always will, until Saturday night, when Mark Harlan absolutely breached his, what I would call a fiduciary responsibility to represent the University of Utah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it should be described as he met with the media, because that's not what he did.
No, he did not.
I think that what Mark Harlan did is, if you look at, so the game ends and we have all this miscellaneous, and I didn't get any of it because it's pretty low quality stuff. Like, it's very loud, very like it's post game on a football field. But like, there's all this video of Mark Harlan like going after this official and pointing his finger
While
like,
the official is making an on-mic announcement in the stadium.
Yeah.
Talking about unsportsmanlike conduct against Utah, the game is over. Mark Harlan standing there pointing his finger and yelling at him. It is completely unprofessional. And then not only to do that, then to go to the locker room, then to leave the locker room and go to the dais, it's unacceptable behavior.
Yeah.
And a $40,000 fine does not quite cover it. Here's the statement from the Big 12 right here, fining Mark Harlan. I don't know what other choice did the Big 12 have? None. There is nothing you can do but to fine him. $40,000. If I'm a Utah fan, I am starting a GoFundMe and I am paying that fine for him. And if he doesn't want it, I'm donating it to the Crimson Club.
Yeah.
Okay, $40,000 is nothing. It's nothing. What Mark Harlan did was so much more than damage himself. If Mark Harlan had damaged himself, this wouldn't even be a discussion.
Well, and I think to that point, the part at the bottom there, the second paragraph,
Mark's comments irresponsibly challenged the professionalism of our officials and the integrity of the Big 12.
So that's the thing. Like, some people
said it, Brett Yormark.
Yeah, some people may, and when I say people, listeners of the show, average Joe fan, the masses, will react to this and say, oh, well, you guys are being hard on Mark Harlan. You guys are, and it's like, no, dude. Like, if you look at the statement that Brett Yormark put out, if you look at the general landscape in college football, you would never see an athletic director do this. There's a reason you're an AD, not a head coach.
And again, I want to make this point clear. If you've watched this show for any amount of time, this is the guy I said should have been the commissioner of the Big 12 when you fired Larry Scott. This is a guy I've told you on the show is one of the best athletic directors in the country. And until Saturday night, he was. I can no longer say that because he has not handled his responsibility. This was, we were playing golf together yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
What did you describe this as?
I mean, I out of character. My initial reaction was, hey man, like, this is not who Mark is. This is out of character. Like, I would not expect this from Mark Harlan. It's not who I've known him to be. Like,
and then, as I said to you then, I'll say to you now, this isn't, unfortunately, that's just, you didn't just lose yourself in a moment. It was fine.
And I have to say, I forgot about the Dennis Stout thing. I did. Like,
it was fine until I expected Mark Harlan to come out and issue a blanket apology. I messed this up. This is my fault. I should never have said that. This does not reflect the University of Utah. This does not reflect the football program. I made a mistake here. I thought that's what he would do. And if he had done that, I would be sitting here today telling you, you know what, this was an emotional moment after a game. It's the Holy War. He had just met with his players. Brant Keithy's career is over. Kyle Whittingham's upset.
In that moment, that the officials cost him the game.
He lost himself in that moment.
Yeah.
Listen to his apology. That none of that happened, because what did Mark Harlan do? He issued a statement. Just put it on paper. Nah, I'm not going to go on TV.
Again, I have said this, and this is not unique to Mark. I hate this process. I hate that dudes, whether it's an AD, a head coach, whoever, I hate in sports that we do this. We're more than happy, Mark, to, after the game, go and meet with the media and rip the officials and rip the Big 12 and again, not trying to be mean, but act childish, because that's what that was.
Not childish. He acted unprofessionally.
Yeah.
His conduct was beneath his position.
Yeah.
And you just can never, and then to issue this apology Last night, you're apologizing after you got fined $40,000 and you got your ass chewed. I'm told he got a pretty significant ass chewing from the Big 12. So all that went down, and then you issued this apology. This apology, that's not an apology. You opened your apology with, I made clear my feelings related to the game officiating. Mark, you should have never said 2 words about the officials. Frankly, you shouldn't have said 2 words, period. However, I recognize that there are more appropriate times and avenues to express those concerns. Not, I should never have said that. Not, I used the wrong language. Not, I lost myself. There were more appropriate times and avenues to express those concerns, and I accept the consequences for my decision, which, frankly, there are no consequences here.
Yeah.
I respect Mark Harlan. I respect him less today than I did on Friday.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I'm not really sure why we're apologizing. Like, you know how in baseball, when something happens and the manager goes out to intentionally get thrown out of the game, there's no apology issued. You knew what you were doing. You made a choice. Like, you're acting out to prove a point. Notice we're not getting an apology from Witt for throwing a chair, because that's in accordance with what a head coach would do. So the apology, Mark, the apology isn't about like what you said. The apology should have been, hey, like, my behavior throughout Saturday night just wasn't, I got way too invested in this game. Because that's the problem. This is, I think the best way to describe it is he should be above this. There's player, coaching staff, and then way up here, there's AD.
I just can't express this enough. You can't do this. You can't do this. I think if it was any other athletic director, I would be contemplating terminating him. It's that serious. I'm not even exaggerating. But this guy, I don't even know how to just, you guys just, I will probably think I'm kissing ass, or I don't really care what you think about me or my opinion. The facts are undisputed. This is one of the best administrators in the country.
Yeah.
This guy, Mark Harlan, the athletic director at Utah, is everything you want in an athletic director. I would love him to be the athletic director at Notre Dame. But now you got to set this right. Mark Harlan, he needs to go on TV and he needs to completely walk this back. Period. Done. End of story. Don't go on your local mouthpiece radio station.
Nobody's listening, dude.
Don't go do an interview with a newspaper. Go on. I would, if I were Mark Harlan, frankly, I would go on SportsCenter. I would go on ESPN. I would go and do the talking head shows. And I would say, I need to get this out. I am really sorry for what I said. It was a huge error in my part. I got lost in the moment. I disrespected my university. I disrespected the Big 12 conference, and there's no excuse to be made for that. No, what Mark Harlan should say is no call in a game merits the words, the language, and the vitriol that I lobbed at BYU, the disrespect of their players, their coaches, and their football program. The disrespect of everybody who works so hard to build the Big 12, everybody at the University of Utah, from the groundskeeper to the linen washer guy, I disrespected all of them. I took them all for granted. I took my job for granted, and I apologize for that.
And by the way, I think it's a really good point. In his apology, he does reference BYU. So it's on his mind. He's hearing about it. Like, that's the thing.
And you guys, again, and then we got to talk about the game.
Yeah.
I want you to understand what Mark Harlan did is unforgivable. There's no fixing this, but he's got to try. BYU won that football game. It was not taken from you. It was not stolen from you. There are calls in every football game. The biggest issue here is You wanted to lay the blame at somebody else's feet. And you disrespected everybody by doing it. And I just will continue to tell you, this is not an apology. You don't open it with last night following the game against BYU. I made my feelings clear to the game officiating. My feelings related to game officiating. This is one of the damage that Mark Harlan did to the University of Utah is they will never recover from that. The University of Utah will forever be disrespected and unappreciated in this conference. And have they earned that?
They have a reputation now.
Yeah. Now you have earned that reputation.
Yeah. Now you have a reputation.
And somehow, some way, the athletic director is responsible for that.
Yeah. And the only way to fix it is by winning football games. That's it. Don't talk, just win.
It has never been their fault. You have never heard a Utah official say we're going to dominate this league. You've never heard a Utah official disrespect the Big 12. You've never heard Kyle Whittingham, any of his coaches, Morgan Scalley hugging Jake Retzloff after the game, which pissed off so many Utah fans.
Which I just don't understand.
You've never heard anybody at the University of Utah disrespect this league until Saturday night. And now you just validated all the hyenas out there who said you guys hate the Big 12 and you're only here because the Big 10 wouldn't let you in. Now I can't say I disagree.
Yeah, I think the fallout from the Holy War is something that, I think wasn't talked about a lot. And obviously, last week, nobody, when you're talking about the Holy War and previewing it and thinking about how it's going to go down. And, we talked about the emotions. You talk about, why it's the best rivalry in college football and likely, a top 5 rivalry in all sports. Athletic director at Utah, going nuclear after the game was not on the list. And,
No.
And, I think that it's just, it's one of these deals where I agree with everything you've said about Mark, the damage, like all that. I agree with the apology piece, all that. I think the hard part for me is that Mark is a good human being. And the problem is it's just like, this is what the Holy War does to people. I hope, whether you're a Mountain Mama fan or, a SEC fan or whatever, I hope that you look at this and you understand this is what this rivalry does. It produces things that we do not see. Yeah, it eats people.
It eats
exactly.
People. This rivalry there. Do you guys understand that this game hadn't been played since 2021 and nobody at the universities was really that upset about it?
Yeah.
Because this happens every year. Max Hall's mom happens every year. Every year. And it is.
Yeah.
Now you're going to get it every year.
Which I'm thrilled about.
I'd be shocked if Kyle Whittingham retired after this season. Had they won this game, I might very well have said, with the Cam and the Keithy and you beat BYU going out on a high note. Okay, I could have. You don't have the emotion that he had. You don't have the fire and brimstone that Kyle Whittingham showed on that day. Listen to this cat, and you tell me, do you believe this is a guy who's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm retired.
Yeah, I couldn't get that last stop, and we needed it, unfortunately. That's kind of been the story for several games. We play lights out and just can't get that one last stop. Thank you.
Yeah, he's retiring. He's lost his fire.
Yeah, dude, he's done. Yeah,
He doesn't love the game anymore.
Right, yeah.
Just stay hard. He's going to go hang out with his wife.
Yeah,
That guy's not retiring.
no big deal.
I'd be stunned. I could be wrong. I don't know Kyle Whittingham. The people at Utah tell me he's not retiring. People I know up there all are as convinced as ever he would never leave. He would not retire with his football program in this shape.
No.
And I agree.
No.
I agree with him. All right, let's get your comments in here. Your reaction to Mark Harlan, the athletic director at Utah. Your thoughts on, is damage the right word?
Well, I think certainly it's hard to measure the damage done to the Big 12 or the school itself. I think.
Oh, I don't think it is.
Well, okay.
You think it's hard to measure the damage that was done to Utah?
He's just. He's hurt the image of the Big 12. He's hurt because we don't really. I mean, you get moments like this out of head coaches in the SEC, but you don't hear from athletic directors in the SEC. You just don't. You couldn't tell me who the athletic director at random school is in the SEC. That's like, they're just ghosts. They do their job. You don't hear from them. They're super disciplined. Like, that's just how it works. And I think that, to me, like the Monday following this incident, like to me, the biggest thing is your reputation for Mark Harlan personally. And then the reputation of the school and the Big 12.
I don't think there's any doubt that when you turn on the college football talking heads today, they're going to be talking about what Mark Harlan said. And they're going to be talking about Utah. And sadly, we're talking about Utah and not BYU because of what Mark Harlan did. That's the saddest part about this.
Yeah.
Is that BYU is undefeated and is going to have to lose 2 of 3 games left on their schedule in order not to make the college football or not to make the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah.
You understand now that they've essentially clinched a spot in the Big 12 championship game as long as they win 2 more games. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
And Mark Harlan's a bigger story today than BYU football.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks. It sucks. That's what I'd say. Okay, let's get some of your thoughts in here. Lopes fan Gabe, good morning to you, sir. Hello.
Monty and Jack Casuals.
That's right. The Monty and Jack Casuals.
Yeah. Okay. Nice,
That's
dude.
exactly right.
Nice.
Good to see you, my friend. In Mark's statement, it seems like he doesn't take back the things he said about the refs. He doesn't.
He doesn't. Not at all.
It wasn't an apology.
Yeah.
This was in Tanner. It's part of the biggest issue I have with Mark Harlan is I know this guy to be a man of integrity and ethics. Well, I did until Saturday night and then Sunday when he released a statement and didn't apologize. It's not enough.
Yeah.
It's simply not enough. It is amazing to me.
Yeah.
San Diego State Glenn, Utah just may get the pro rata it deserves after those comments. 40K was kind, in my opinion. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think 40K was just like it's like in the NBA when dudes rip the officials. Here's a fine. Like, that's what that is. It's more like, I agree. And I'll be really curious to see what Mark does moving forward. Because for me, I disagree with how that that statement, was written. And I would agree, like, you need to do more to fix it. But will he do more? Do they feel they need to do more?
No, I don't think he does. I think he thinks that this is enough. I think he thinks this statement right here this covers all. It doesn't cover your bases, sir. You're better than this apology.
Well, and the other thing too is, like, in the middle of the statement, they're talking about how, hey, I just left the locker room.
My comments came after having just left our locker room where our student athletes were hurting and upset.
Like, that doesn't make it okay.
No, you're a parent. This is what parents do, man.
Yeah.
This is, and I the thing that you said while we were playing golf yesterday that resonates is this isn't the athletic director's job.
Yeah.
This is below his position. This is not. You just don't do that. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. I agree with it wholeheartedly. Eric Wasikowski, Monty telling others they acted unprofessional. That's rich. Okay. Well, there's the door, dude.
Yeah. See you later, bro.
And donuts, no apology. Maybe he stands by what he said. Yeah. Which you can't do.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a really good comment, and donuts as usual from you. I think he does stand by his words. I think he believes what he said.
Do you think and this is what I was pondering on Sunday while we were golfing. Did Mark Harlan, field, locker room, after the locker room, did Mark ever say to himself, man, I really want to go to the media and just absolutely tear the Big 12 a new one? Should I do that? I'm curious if that ever happened for Mark in his head.
Well, but wait. You make a really good point. What order did it happen in? Field, locker room, media. What did he say in this statement? And here's one of the things that I'm glad you said that, because I forgot this part. He said, my comments came after having just left our team locker room where student athletes were hurting and upset. Yeah, the only problem with that is you berated the official on the field before you ever went to the locker room. So you had lost yourself before you ever walked into the locker room and Brand Keithy was out for the year. Mm-hmm. You had lost yourself before kids were hurting, and you were yelling at the official and pointing at him while he was on national TV while he was trying to make an announcement over a hot mic. Mark, you're better than this. That's what bothers me so much about this situation, right? It's not that Utah lost the game. It's that you lost yourself, Mark. You're better than this. You're an elite administrator. You're one of the best in your industry.
Is part of it for you like just the disappointment of the whole thing?
I am, yes. Part of this for me is I am really disappointed in Mark Harlan.
Yeah.
I don't have one of my great advantages is I don't have a dog in the BYU Utah fight.
Right. We're just here enjoying it.
I'm just fortunate enough to live in the state of Utah and understand the landscape and have the great fortune of talking to BYU and Utah fans. And
right.
I don't, the outcome of the game, I just want a great game. And boy, was it. I'm really disappointed in Mark Harlan today. I've sat up here on this show and defended him for years.
Yeah.
I thought he handled himself brilliantly during the Pac-12 meltdown. I can't tell you enough. And maybe I just need to keep saying it. I've been doing this for a long time, man. This is the only gig I've ever had since I was 16 years old at the great WKRS in Waukegan.
Yeah.
It's the only gig I've ever had. I've covered a lot of Titans. I've covered a lot of athletic directors. I've covered a lot of really, really amazing administrators. I've never seen a guy bury himself like this. I've never seen a guy just absolutely in front of the entire college football world put his credibility on the table, pour gasoline on top of it, and then light a match and just burn it up.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
shocking.
Part of me, and I wish I had the opportunity to ask Mark this directly. I really do, because I would love to know what he would say to it. But part of me really wonders, like, to what we're talking about with the sequence of events, like field, then locker room, then media, like right there. And what I would ask Mark is, hey, when did you make the decision that you were going to go to the media and say all this stuff? What did you make a decision, or were you just fueled by the emotion of it and so pissed off that it was just like, hey, all right, I'm done ripping the official on the field. Let's go check in on the kids and probably talk to Whit in the locker room for a minute. And then, probably, because let's be really honest. We as dudes know how this goes down, right? When we're upset with something in life that involved our friends, because that's what they are. That's what Whit and Mark are. They're friends, right? They're close work colleagues. Like, we know this. This is not new. So I'm guessing, again, my opinion, guessing, not saying this is facts, but field, go to the locker room. You walk through the locker room to get to Whit's office, let's say. You have a conversation, a 5-minute conversation with Whit. And then right there, was there a decision to go? Was this intentional? That's what I want to know, because I agree, I'm disappointed that you said this, but I'd be more disappointed if you said, yeah, you know what? We're so pissed off that I, as an AD, feel the need to go and do this.
And this is where you need, and again, just because I have experience with this, their sports information department at the University of Utah, elite.
Mm-hmm.
The best
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
Who said no to Mark Harlan? Somebody needed to stand in front of him and say, you can fire me, but I'm not going to let you go up there and do this. And I don't know, maybe he didn't tell anybody. And if Mark Harlan didn't tell anybody what he was doing, and he just went into the media room, because for those of you who don't know, the way this works is the game ends. The media comes, it's a pretty good journey at Rice-Eccles Stadium. From the press box, you got to take elevators all the way down, and then you go into the press room. My guess is, because Mark Harlan, this is all in that new South End Zone complex underneath it.
Yeah.
Mark Harlan berated the official on the field, went into the locker room, consoled players, probably shared a moment with the coaches and Kyle Whittingham. And my guess is everybody in that locker room and in that coach's room were bitching about those calls.
Yeah.
They were upset about the holding call. They were upset about and Mark was like, you know what? You're right. And then he probably either said in his mind right there, I'm going to go do this, or walked out of the coach's room because Whit was like, I got to go meet the media. I got to go do the press. And that may have, I don't know how the process went. My guess is Mark Harlan never went to his people and said, I'm going to go meet with the media.
No, it was too fast for that to have happened.
I think so. And so I'm not trying to take this too far. I would suspend him if I were the University of Utah. for the rest of the calendar year. You were fined $40,000. You're suspended for the rest of the calendar year. I think he did enormous damage.
Just to put that into perspective, because there's some sticker shock there. The rest of the calendar year is like, what do we got? 5 weeks left. I mean, and the guy's taking PTO for 2 of those weeks already. Like, you know, so it's not, you know,
you just don't do this.
Yeah.
You just don't do it. And I am shocked. I'm truly sitting in front of you, and this is not hyperbole or exaggeration. I am stunned he did this. I am stunned by it.
Yeah. What else we got?
Tanner Plummer, ladies and gentlemen, the program that's supposed to run the Big 12, dude. Yeah, eye patch. Fact is, nobody wants to win a game like that unless you're a TDS fan. Win a game like what? Here's the other part of this, Utah fan. You got beat.
Yeah.
BYU's a better football team than you.
Yep.
There were so many missed calls during the game. That call at the end of the game, the holding call, was absolutely, unquestionably a penalty. I don't want to hear, well, you can't call that there. Sure you can. It's a penalty.
What do I always say with the Chiefs? And this is the point I was making on Twitter and in our members only group. Oh, you can't call it there. Can't call it there. Can't call it there. Well, how could they not call it there? The penalty you committed had a direct impact on the play.
And it was an egregious, like he tugged him down.
The DB got beat. That's what you don't want to say. At DBU, your boy got beat.
And I could go back to the very consequential face mask call on Isaiah Glasker.
Yeah.
There were calls all game long. All game long. The bottom line is, Utah fan, you didn't score any points in the second half. As usual, BYU, as they have shown this entire year, Jay Hill and his defensive staff were elite at halftime adjustments. He got beat by a better football team. And I'd also remind you, is that where the game ended? They called the holding, and then they came on and kicked a field goal? Farron, who's been automatic this year, just came on and kicked a field goal, right? There were no other. Oh, wait, that's right. They marched down the field on you. The penalty didn't lose you the game. It's what I say about the Chicago Bears. The Hail Mary isn't what beat you against Washington. Now, is that the play where they won the game? It is. Just letting them walk down the field before the Hail Mary certainly played a role in it. This game, the Holy War, was not lost on that holding penalty.
Yeah.
Would that have ended the game? Yes. But it was clearly, it was either PI or holding. Take your pick. And my point is, you're still the best defense in the conference. By the way, Utah reintroduced themselves. That's the best defense in the conference.
Yeah.
And yet, Jake Retzloff went down the field. They kicked a game-winning field goal.
They did what they had to do on your field, and you don't want to say that. And I get it. I get that it's an emotional thing. Utah fan wants to blame the officials. BYU fan wants to call Utah clowns. Okay, cool. I'm not really here for the childish sandbox drama with this game out of both sides. I want to talk about the fact that this thing with Mark Harlan happened, and this game lived up to it. Like 100,000% lived up to it. And that's what we should be talking about. We shouldn't be getting, this type of nonsense out of you guys today.
Miriam Harmer. I'm getting that name wrong.
First of all, good to see you. Never heard of you before. Appreciate you.
Welcome
listening.
to the show. BYU fan here. Sorry for Utah players in the program that Mark Harlan is the story this morning. Exactly right. But for BYU, it's great. Allow our guys to focus on the next game 1 week at a time. Don't want to get ahead of our skis. Absolutely right. With the championship game or playoff talk, go Cougs. You've got to go to Arizona State and win.
Yeah. Which is not an easy task.
That's the game that should terrify you, is that you got to go to Tempe and win, and that team is tough to beat. That team is tough to beat.
Yeah.
And Boyd Lake, Harlan didn't wait until the play was over to melt down. No. And I think this is also an incredible point. You understand why they called. So the official ending the game was announcing the penalty when Mark Harlan was
right.
The penalty was unsportsmanlike conduct because Mark Harlan was on the field during the final scary ass lateral that was about one throw away from going all the way to the house. I would remind you. Mark Harlan was on the field, which is what drew the unsportsmanlike conduct flag. So it's a really good point. Horatio Hornblower. Even BYU fans are talking more about Harlan than the game itself. Gutsy performance there at the end by the team in the sub-zero ice in Will Farron's veins should be the story. That kid,
Dude, he's a savage, bro.
he is a great kicker.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're a BYU fan, and I think, yes, let's get into that a little bit. This team now, you guys understand they would have to lose all three not to go to the conference championship game. They've got the hammer on K-State. Another really good performance out of Colorado. I mean, I would assume at this point, because that Colorado defense is playing so well, I'd have to assume at this point Colorado and BYU are going to meet for the Big 12 championship game.
Right.
And the winner of that game, I think Big 12's only getting one in. Iowa State.
It's over. Good season, but it's over.
Rocco Becht, that defense have disappeared.
Yeah.
I think I said here less than a month ago talking about how Rocco Becht makes throws in moments and spaces that really make a difference for that team. Yeah, those days are long gone.